Welcome into our first draft prospect video, looking at some draft prospects, a very more of an introduction to some of these guys. We're not going to get too in depth. We personally haven't gone too in depth. Yeah, we've seen these guys play, but we haven't looked at the film, on all the players. And that's the process over the next several months. But it's time to kind of introduce everyone to who's going to be talked about over the next when is the draft in May? So over the next 4 months, essentially.
Yeah, I think it's April like 26th, 27th, right in that area. So
about 3.5 months. Then all these names for Dynasty, you're going to be hearing these names, and I think if you watch college football or you follow prospects, you know these guys, but not everyone does necessarily. Some people don't really follow college football, and then when it gets to this time of year, they start to pay attention to prospects, and that's fine too. We always talk about it's really good to start now and not a couple weeks before the draft, because then you get people that get hyped up and this player was drafted to the Chiefs. We're going to take him over this guy, even though this guy was better all off season. So, Dad, overall thoughts on this draft class? It seems like it's pretty loaded offensively in the first round, at least the top half of the first round.
As we were just talking offline, it's kind of unique. We're going to talk about 5 quarterbacks, and we're going to introduce these 5 quarterbacks. These guys have they've played 3, 4, 5 years in college football, and they've been around college football for a number of years. I think they've all been on multiple teams. The transfer portal. So, and I think Drake May is the only one who hasn't really gone on another team, but they've had some experience. If you guys remember, if everybody remembers Anthony Richardson, the biggest complaint about him last year was he only started 12 games. Well, we don't have that with these 5 guys that we're gonna show you. So, or talk about here. So there'll be some interesting stuff. And these guys, I watch a lot of college football, so I've seen these guys play, and I think every one of them, they got better. As you're supposed to, I guess, and so there'll be a lot of quarterbacks. I'd say, first there are already some reputable mock drafts out there, and I'm not, there's mock drafts everywhere, so just be careful of what you look at, and but there's ESPN and Pro Football Focus, and I'm not sure if NFL.com is, but I've seen first 3 guys are quarterbacks. So if you look at the teams, you look at the NFL teams in that draft position, do they need a quarterback? The answer is yes. Then they're going to pick whoever they think is the best quarterback. So that's how it's going to roll.
Yeah, and the latest one I saw from PFF, which was I think a few days ago. Yeah, the first 3 picks were quarterbacks, and then 2 more guys went in the top 12. So there was 5 quarterbacks taken in the top 12. I've seen even 6 quarterbacks taken in the top 15. JJ McCarthy being one of them. Obviously, we don't know yet if he's coming back, so we're not going to be talking about him until we know if he's going back to Michigan or entering the NFL draft. So yeah, if you need a quarterback, this is the year. If you have late first round picks in Dynasty, you're either going to get one of these guys or you're going to get some stud receivers or running backs or tight ends, because they're going to get pushed down because everyone's taken quarterback. So again, this is kind of an introduction. No, not super in depth. We're going to get more in depth maybe after the Super Bowl. We're just going to kind of go through the positions and look at some of the guys that you should be paying attention to.
There's a couple.
First guy. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, there's a couple things coming up. The week leading up to the Super Bowl is, you have the Senior Bowl. So, I mean, if you're really hardcore into this stuff, watch the Senior Bowl practices, at least on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of the week leading up to the Super Bowl. It's on NFL.com. You know, you can spend a couple hours and they'll talk about the guys and stuff like that, and you know who's doing what in the Senior Bowl, and then we have, you know, the good old combine there in late February. So or the Underwear Olympics or whatever you want to call them. So that's.
Yep, that is coming up, and January 15th, I believe, is when they have to make their decision on if they're coming back or not. And yeah, the Super Senior Bowl is a good it's a good thing to point out, because there's always players that impress that maybe go a little bit under the radar. Michael Wilson last year was one of them. Tajay Spears was another one last year. Two guys that were drafted in dynasty rookie drafts. They impressed at the Senior Bowl, and they were both third round picks, I believe. So yeah, you'll get guys that will pop up. So yeah, pay attention to that. You got players playing against the best of the best, essentially. So yeah, our first quarterback, obviously most people know, is Caleb Williams, Heisman Trophy winner, projected to be the first quarterback taken, whether that's by the Bears or someone else. We don't really know yet, and I'm not sure when we're going to know. But overall thoughts on when you think of Caleb Williams on the field, and his play on the field, Dad? Does it remind you of anyone? What do you think of when you see it?
Yeah, I'm not sure. You know, I don't want to say Mahomes or anything. He didn't look really great this year, and USC didn't have a great year, you know, this year. So, and you know, you still got to have the team around the players and stuff like that. You know, but this guy is started for 3 years and stuff like that. So he does a lot of improvising and running around and stuff like that. You know, some of that stuff, but you know, and he's trying to make the I guess I'm kind of being a little negative here. He's trying to make the, you know, the holy shit play or something all the time. So, but yeah, he's, you know, everybody's, I mean, he would have been drafted number 1 last year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not a quarterback expert. I can only see what I see, you know, what I watch and stuff like that. So this guy's going number 1. He's got all the tools. You know, we'll get all the measurables and stuff like that later on, and you know, height, weight, and the old hand size and all that other stuff. But this guy should you know, he should be number 1.
Yeah, he should be number 1, and he makes throws that not many people, even in the NFL, can make at this point. So doesn't mean, is he going to be a superstar? Not necessarily. Like, there's a lot of things that go into being a good quarterback. So in terms of the ability, he has it. I agree. He plays off script a lot, or plays hero ball a little bit too much, maybe. And you can't do that as much in the NFL. Definitely can't. You got to play within the confines of the offense a little bit. You can't just go off script all the time. It felt like at times when you watch some of his cut-ups in his film, it's like, is USC even running an offense, or are they just like, all right, everyone run out there and then we'll find you know, like, it's like
putting the play in the dirt in the backyard, and you go here and you go here. Yeah, that's the way I felt. And you know, especially this year, and I go, man, that's not going to last in the NFL. You know, I heard Rich Gannon on XM radio, you know, he was talking about Justin Fields. He goes, the guy's good, but you gotta, as an NFL quarterback, you gotta play from the pocket. Mm-hmm. You gotta be able to, you know, throw the ball, you know, from the pocket and stuff like that. So, and this guy will be in that category, you know.
Yeah, and I think he can, and I think USC. I feel like there was a little bit of pressure of like their defense was like out of like the 180 schools, they're in like the 170th worst or best, whatever you want to call it. Like they were really bad. Not a whole lot of talent. Like I think there's a receiver that's going to be drafted maybe in the second, third round, but there's not a whole lot of talent around him. You know, he lost Jordan Addison last year, which could be a problem, but or could have been a problem. But yeah, overall, he has the talent for fantasy wise. Like he can run. I think he scored like 20 rushing touchdowns. So he can move. He is the closest thing to Mahomes that we have seen since Mahomes. Just doing plays where you're just like, holy crap, like how did you get that one in there and stuff like that. So I think he should go number one. I think he should go number one overall in Superflex Dynasty rookie drafts. And, you know, he needs to clean up some things for sure. No one's a perfect prospect. He fumbles a lot. I think he has like 30 fumbles in his college career, which is a lot. So you definitely got to clean that up and just, play within the confines of the offense a little bit. You know, going off script's not terrible. We can't just do it every time. So
good coaches, you got to have, you know, good coaches definitely help. And, you know, but anyway, that's
it. Just speculating. We talked about it. You think he's going to go, the Bears are going to take him. I kind of agree with you as well. Financially, it makes sense. You know, you have to pay Justin Fields really soon. And so you can kind of reset all that once again, stay in good financials. And I think the Bears aren't a terrible spot for him. You know, you got DJ Moore there, you got Cole Kmet, you got a couple running backs. They have another top 10 pick, which they can take, you know, add to that talent. Their defense improved last year. So do you think it is going to be the Bears? Like what percentage would you give it? Like a 50-50 still or?
Oh, no, it's, I was kind of against it. And the more I thought about it, the contract situation, you know, as Justin Fields, if you got everything out of him, you're going to get, I don't know, you know, maybe, probably, I'm not sure, but, you know, I think it's like, you know, 75, 80% this guy's getting drafted by the Bears. So, and then, you know, the Bears could turn around and trade Fields to a team like Atlanta or Washington or somebody who really needs a quarterback, but who's not in the draft position for. Well, Washington is, but Atlanta it's not. But
it's not.
But anyway,
and even if and I think it would be crazy for them to, if they're not going to take a quarterback, to just draft Marvin Harrison at 1. Maybe they do that. And if they do that, then he goes to Washington, Caleb Williams, and he's throwing the ball to Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin, you know, like that's a good situation too. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens. We should get some more clarity soon, but obviously Caleb Williams is going to be at worst the second pick in this NFL draft, I would say. So, and in probably rookie drafts. Drake May is the next guy that, you know, we've been hearing about all year long. And, you know, it is pretty rare where you hear, okay, Drake, you know, you hear in August of 2023, Drake May and Caleb Williams are the top 2 quarterbacks. It's very rare that it stays that way, but it did this year. They've been kind of the top 2 for this draft since the end of the 2022 college season. So Drake May, to me, you know, played at North Carolina. If you were to build a quarterback in a lab, he feels like the quarterback you would take. The size is there. You know, Caleb Williams is listed as 6'1". He's probably 6 foot because he's listed as 6'1", which isn't, you know, ideal size is 6'4" or 5. Drake May is kind of the ideal size. He has the ideal arm. He can move. He's mobile. He can run. So he kind of feels like that quarterback you can build in a lab. So what do you think about Drake May, and do you think he falls past the 3rd overall pick in the NFL draft?
He has, just looking at his physical traits compared to Caleb Williams, this guy is 6'4", 230. So I mean, that's like a perfect quarterback number right there. Both these guys, Caleb Williams and Drake May, kind of had their 2022 seasons. They were really good. I mean, Heisman Trophy winner, and Drake May had 4,300 yards. Then they both had a down year in 2023. So I'm not, their team did. So it doesn't mean, and some of their numbers went down and stuff like that. But this guy looks the part. He has, for a big guy, he has some mobility. In 2022, he rushed for almost 700 yards. That's quite a bit, and he threw for 4,300 yards. So, last year it wasn't as good, but it wasn't terrible or anything like that. So, he's the guy personally that I probably know the least about. So, just because I've seen him play on TV, but not as much as North Carolina. Let me remind you of some previous North Carolina quarterbacks: Trubisky, Sam Howell.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's does this guy break that mold? Hey, you might think so.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely they had down years in terms of production and their team success. They both also lost a receiver. Again, Jordan Addison, Caleb Williams lost Jordan Addison to the first round, and Drake May lost Josh Downs, who was a second round pick last year, a high second round pick. So that has something to do with it. But Drake May, I really like watching him, and I'd be interested to get more into the ins and outs of him. And I think if you're sitting in the dynasty rookie draft at the 103, you got to be very happy because you're going to get Caleb, Marvin Harrison, or Drake May. And I think it's not like a consolation prize. It's this guy could have a better rookie year than Caleb. He could be a better quarterback than Caleb. There's no clear.
The Commanders have the number 2 draft pick.
Commanders have the number 2 and the Patriots in the number 3. So
yeah, this guy I think he would fit very well at with the Commanders. With their receiving core. They're not a dumpster fire team talent wise yet, or and they got some new coaches and all the other got a different direction coming in. I think that would be a good fit.
I think so too. I think whoever goes there, I think has, whether it's Caleb, Drake May, or Jaden Daniels, the next guy or one of the guys we're going to talk about, they're going to potentially be in the best situation, and they could have the best rookie season out of these quarterbacks fantasy wise. Because again, you're throwing it to you're throwing it to Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson. They have the Commanders also have 2 more picks. They have 3 picks in the top 40. So they have pick 36 and they have pick 40, the Bears pick. So they could add another talented player there too,
Offensive line, yeah.
Offensive line, yeah. They have Brian Robinson there, at least a semblance of a running game. So, yeah, I think whatever quarterback goes here, you're pretty happy, which, it's not what we've been saying about the Commanders for the last decade plus, it seems like. So, excited to get more into him, but he's definitely, to me, it's Caleb and Drake May as of now. And there is a third guy who we'll get to now. We'll skip over the third guy on our list and we'll jump to Jaden Daniels right now. So this is a guy that every year there's a guy that comes out of nowhere, where you're like, no one expected this. Joe Burrow, is a guy that it's like, holy crap, like where'd this guy come from? He's the Heisman Trophy winner, national champion, number 1 overall pick. Jaden Daniels was similar to this, kind of came out of nowhere a little bit, played at LSU. He's very talented as a runner. He's pretty slight. He's 6'3", but I think he's like 100. I've seen anywhere from like 185 to 205. So it's always tough to know exactly until the combine what these guys' height and weight actually is. I think he's probably closer to 200. He does look pretty slight. So what do you think about Jaden Daniels, who spent 5 years in college and won the Heisman last year? He had 40 passing touchdowns, 10 rushing touchdowns, over 1,100 yards on the ground. What'd you think?
Yeah, kind of the reason we didn't know the guy. he was stuck at Arizona State for 3 years,
Yep.
and the Sun Devils. So I don't know if you remember that Herm Edwards was the coach there for a few years. So he's had some good coaching and stuff like that. And I mean, he wasn't lights out or anything like that. I mean, there were okay statistics and the teams were okay and stuff like that, 8-4 and 8-5. But then he had 3 years at Arizona State, and then he went to LSU, and they seemed to focus him a little bit more. And this year, holy shit, he's like 3,800 yards passing and 1,100 yards rushing. It's like, yeah, I mean, that's those are significant numbers, and he won the Heisman Trophy, and and he should have. So,
he 50 total touchdowns.
Yeah, he played SEC football. That's big boy football. So, this guy, he could jump up to number 2 in the draft and real quick. And like you said, he kind of did come out of nowhere. I mean, he wasn't on everybody's radar screen, but he's definitely going to be a top 5 pick, and he's going to end up somewhere. What would you say? New England was the 3rd pick in the draft, so
yep,
he's fired Belichick today. So now they're gonna definitely. It's time for Mac Jones to pack his bags.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this guy's fun to watch, and for fantasy, it's what we love. These rushers, Caleb and Drake, all 3 of these guys can run the ball. They'll give you production on the ground. This is the guy that could put up Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson rushing numbers, 1,000 yards type of numbers. Caleb and Drake May will probably give you 500-600, like Mahomes or Josh Allen like numbers. But this guy could put up 1,000, and that's what we love in fantasy. So I think there's an argument in terms of fantasy. Is he the QB2? I think there's an argument there. If he goes 3rd overall, 2nd overall, doesn't matter. I think there's a chance that he could be the QB2. So, we'll know more as we go along and watch. And I kind of think about it with like Anthony Richardson, and Anthony Richardson kind of jumped up to like the QB2. He's fun to watch. I'm always a little skeptical when guys and maybe it was just the system, or because he actually had a problem looking at it now. He had a pretty good year in 2022 with LSU. He threw 17 touchdowns, ran for 800 yards, rushed. He had 28 total touchdowns. I'm just always a little skeptical when you see, this guy 5 years into it dominating 18, 19, 20-year-olds, right? Like, it's a little easier when you're 23 years old dominating these guys. So, but yeah, it'll be good to watch. So I think it's pretty hard to imagine, especially with the teams at the top, these 3 quarterbacks don't go 1, 2, 3, right?
I think, I think if you look at all of his 2023 games, like I said, SEC, some higher talent and stuff like that. SEC is kind of, they got a few teams that don't play defense very well down there either. All they want to do is score a lot of points, kind of like the Big 12 there. So, get on in the YouTube and start looking at some of these games. Look at the game logs and see what he actually did against Alabama. And I don't know if they played Georgia or not. Some of the other upper teams of the Southeastern Conference and stuff, and
yeah, no, they played Alabama. I don't think they played Georgia, but anyways, even the 5th best team in the SEC is really good, So
yeah,
it'll be fun to watch this. He's gonna test well and everything. So the last 2 guys we're gonna talk about, which I'm very interested to see how you rank these 2 between each other, and if you think they're gonna be 1st-round picks. We'll start with Bo Nix out of Oregon. Bo Nix is an interesting one. A lot of people either hate or love him. He was played at Auburn for 2-3 years, and he was terrible. Like, he was really bad. He played in college for.
I don't think it was terrible. It wasn't great. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Yeah, okay. It wasn't absolutely terrible, but yeah, it wasn't anywhere near to what he did his 2 years at Oregon. Which, again, is slightly concerning. When you watch him, you see a lot of quick game, dinking and dunking, 5-yard routes and moving down the field. I don't know how I feel yet about Bo Nix, and I think he is going to go in the first round. He feels like he needs to go to the right team. If he doesn't go to the right team with the right coach, the right offensive system, the right weapons in place, that he's going to struggle. If he goes to he's not going to go to the Jets, but if he goes to the Jets, like, I don't trust the Jets in developing a quarterback.
Jets, no, my God.
Quarterback
hell.
Yeah, could he be what Brock Purdy is doing in San Francisco? Yeah, I think he could, at least to a certain extent. So what do you think about Bo Nix when you watch him?
Yeah, I think, you kind of nailed it. You look at, he had 3 years with Auburn and, SEC football again, and he was not very lights out. So, I mean, then he followed some coach to Oregon, and his numbers were significantly different, But, I mean, Oregon was close to being one of the best teams in the in the nation this year. So they just couldn't beat Washington. The funny thing is, but yeah, he'll probably get picked in the first round because somebody will need a quarterback.
Yeah.
Somebody's looking at the future. And geez, is he top 10, top 15? I'd be shocked. Is he in the latter part of the first round, in the second round? Yeah. But, here's a reminder to everyone. The NFL started 66 quarterbacks this year.
Yep.
So if this guy gets drafted and he's on a team, there's a good chance he's going to be playing soon,
Yeah.
Like you said, he needs to be on the right team. So,
I mean, you just look at all the teams though that need quarterbacks. There's so many. Like the Giants at 6 could use a quarterback. Tennessee, maybe, if they don't believe in Will Levis, there's a new coach coming in. Atlanta needs a quarterback. The Jets, past Aaron Rodgers, they need a quarterback. Maybe Minnesota does with Kirk Cousins potentially gone. I think he's coming back, but who knows? Denver at 12 needs a quarterback. Vegas at 13 needs a quarterback. The Saints, after Carr is done maybe in a year.
What about Seattle?
Seattle there's so many teams in that. We're not even at that's pick 16, So beyond that, I mean, maybe Tampa Bay they're going to be, they made the playoffs, but they could use a quarterback. Maybe the Rams, if they take someone to take over for Stafford after a year. Pittsburgh, there's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks. So I don't see him falling out of the first round. I don't. Where he goes, I don't know. But yeah, he feels like a little bit, and I don't want to say this as a negative. I think people use this as a negative, the game manager label. I don't think that's a bad thing. You have to be able to manage a game as a quarterback. That's a skill that you need to be able to do, So I think that's the most important skill too, is to be able to manage a game, So, but is he going to be, is he going to be CJ Stroud, who kind of just takes over a team and throws for 5,000 yards almost? No, I don't see that. So, yeah, definitely there's a teardrop from the top 3, Caleb, May, and Jaden Daniels. And it's probably Bo Nix and this next guy, Michael Penix Jr., from Washington, played in the national championship game. He was in college forever, was at Indiana, was always hurt, finally got healthy, and he had a really good year this year. So what do you think about Michael Penix? Are you how would you rank him in comparison to Bo Nix? Who would you take first? And yeah, overall thoughts of Penix, who spent 6 years in college.
Yeah. first off, he had a couple of ACL injuries while he was in Indiana for 4 years. Mm-hmm. So he had ACL injuries, and I think he had a shoulder injury. So he didn't play 2018, 19, 20, 21. He didn't play more than 6 games. A year. So he finally, said, I got to get out of here, Indiana. He went to Washington, and all of a sudden, they started capitalizing on his, he got healthy, and then the offense, they got a little better players, and he threw 4,600 yards in 2022 and almost 5,000 yards. So, and he looked marvelous. I already heard them say that he's got size 11 hands. So that's why the ball coming out of his hand, there's a tight spiral to it and all that stuff. And, but if he's going to get remembered in college, look at the last game he played, the Michigan Wolverines kicked his ass. Uh-huh. And that's, that's not, was it his fault? I don't know. It's like any quarterback, you rush the passer, you knock them around a little bit, they get a little stupid. They don't want to get in there and get hit. And so,
no, I agree. It's almost like he would have been better not winning that game against Texas, because he looked awesome after that. People were like, holy crap, this guy's a top 10 pick. And then, Michigan, who we should say potentially the best defense. It's hard in college football to know who's the best, but they're definitely in the top 5. They're in the conversation for one of the best defenses in the in college last year, or in this 2023 season. So keep that in mind, but yeah, like it did feel like his game against Texas was like CJ Stroud's game against Georgia in the semifinals, and Stroud really looked awesome that game and propelled him to for sure top 5 pick. So he's an interesting one. I don't know how I would rank Penix versus Nix. His deep ball is awesome. He throws a really nice deep ball. It feels like when I watch him, though, there's a couple things lacking. I don't know how mobile he's going to be because of those injuries. And it wasn't just 2 ACLs. I think he had other injuries as well. So that's always a concern. How long will he last? He had shoulder injuries in 2019 and 2021 as well. So
you can be a pocket quarterback and still survive, but you got to just move. Of course, you got to move in the pocket a little bit. That doesn't mean you need to run, 15 yards to the right side or anything like that. So, but you got to have some mobility. Somebody like Tom Brady knows how to move in the pocket or something.
Yeah, 100%. How would you rank Nix versus Penix? Would you have Penix?
Well, I think I'd like Michael Penix a little better.
Okay. Yeah.
But
he was. Yeah. Go ahead.
The injuries. Those are concerns. I mean, I don't know, man. It's and he was limping around and holding his side or his hip or something on Monday night. So, and that's after, just a couple of, just a couple of sacks, or, it was more hitting after throwing and stuff like that. So,
yeah. What would you say the percentage that he goes? I mean, both these guys go in the first round, Nix and Penix. Do you think it's above 50%?
Yeah, probably. Again, there's going to be somebody, we just talked about a list of teams, that probably need a quarterback. Maybe these guys are, maybe these guys are projects or something, or maybe they're going to be backups and then eventually they're going to play. But I mean, if they're getting drafted to be a starter right now in Atlanta, there ain't going to be any better than Desmond Ridder. you
Yeah.
know.
And
But
it's okay to be a backup for, like, look at Jordan Love, who obviously was a backup
absolutely,
for a long time.
just
But
think if you got drafted by Tampa Bay and
Mhm.
you sat behind Baker Mayfield for a couple of years,
yeah,
what the hell's wrong with that? I mean, I never, the paradigm shifted, I don't know, 10, 20 years ago. Oh, if you're drafted in the first round, you got to play right now, and it's like,
yeah,
geez, man. Mahomes sat,
yeah.
what the
He
hell
sat
was
for a
wrong with
year.
that?
Well, what if you go to Seattle and you sit behind Geno Smith for one more year, and then
Absolutely.
you take over and you have Lockett and JSN as your, or sorry, Metcalf and JSN as your receivers? Like, that's a good situation. So,
Yep.
um, yeah, there's a lot of good, interesting situations. I'd love to see where these guys go. So again, like, these guys could, in dynasty rookie drafts, these guys could get pushed down, like, because the top three quarterbacks are probably going to go in the top 5 picks. Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors are going to go. And then you get to these guys, like, they could be sitting there at 108, 109, and you could pick up a first round quarterback that late. So those are the 5 that we're looking at today. And there's potentially more first round guys. One of them, I don't think he was a first round guy, but Quinn Ewers is going back to Texas. Just got that earlier today, right before we started recording. JJ McCarthy is a guy that could maybe be drafted in the first round. We don't know if he's coming back yet. And there's going to be a couple others that I think are going to be second, third round picks. So that's what we'll look at, probably five-ish more quarterbacks in the next video to kind of keep an eye out. And Dad, any last words on?
No, I was just this guy named Matt Reed put a mock draft out on NFL.com or on ESPN.com yesterday, and I was just looking at it right now. He has JJ McCarthy going number 12, and I'm like, what? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's he's got those other 3 quarterbacks going 1, 2, and 3. The Caleb Williams, and he has Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, 1, 2, 3. And then JJ McCarthy going 12, and that's it for the first round. So, and I'm like,
Okay.
wow, that's to Denver.
Yeah, the PFF one was Bo Nix to Minnesota at 11, and Penix was going. Where did he go? 8 to Atlanta. So
I kind of trust PFF's thinking a little better than some of these other guys, but I don't know.
It'll be fun to see. A lot of things are going to change. That's for sure.
Yeah, start a friggin' spreadsheet on mock drafts, man, and start January 11th and see what it turns out to about mid-April, and
yeah. All right. Well, we're going to finish up there. And as always, like and subscribe, and we will be back looking at a few more quarterbacks, our initial thoughts. Catch you guys then.